Hi folks, Bob Collins along with my buddy Eric for Before You Spend Thousands. Where I am, or I should say where we are Eric's garage, and many of you are not just Royal Enfield fans, you're not necessarily one brand or another, and what we've put together here is Eric's has a KTM and he's got a BMW we're going to talk a little bit about. And Eric's got a tremendous amount of experience on motorcycles and motorcycling and enjoying not just local motorcycling, but some longer distance stuff. So Eric, tell us a little bit about the two bikes and a little bit more specifically about the KTM here.
Well, this is a 2023 KTM 690 Enduro R. It's vastly different than the BMW. This is not their dirt bike model, but it's not their big 1290, 1090. They made some different iterations, but this is kind of the middle of the road Enduro bike. And it's a bike that'll do everything. You can tackle pavement with it, and you can climb Engineer Pass and any of the passes out in Colorado, which I've done. It's a little bit rougher on pavement if you're doing long distances because the seat is really kind of like a plank of wood. Most people have them replace them. I've kind of gotten around that by wearing special bicycle shorts when I ride, so I've got a little bit of padding. And a lot of the time when you're riding this bike, you're actually standing on the pegs. This bike has a tremendous amount of torque and power. It puts out 76 horsepower, which is pretty amazing for a single cylinder motor. And these bikes are really kind of unicorns. It kind of does everything. The modifications I've made to the bike, I put Touratech folding mirrors on it so that when you're riding on the trail you can fold them in. I did fall numerous times on trails in Colorado this year, and the mirrors just tend to fold in. And the hand guards are plastic, but it's nice because if they do get hit, this one actually broke and you can just kind of put it right back in and you don't have to worry about trying to hammer metal out. So some of the things I've done to the bike in addition to that are I've put a quad lock mount for a phone. I have KTM made a little air dam or like a wind deflector that bolts onto the front light panel. I put that on. I do have soft bags on this bike. The reason I went with soft bags is because anytime you do a lot of off-road, and this bike I use almost exclusively for off-road. I really don't ride on the highway unless I'm just going somewhere. But I got soft bags. Those are Wolfman luggage products, all four of them, the two panniers, the top bag, and the tank bag. Eric from Wolfman does a really good job of making soft products, soft bags. I like his stuff, and it all attaches very well. And I've used them for years now, and they've worked really, really well.
A couple of questions I've got, and basically what we're looking here is that is 3/4 off-road adventure, and pretty much a quarter on-road adventure. I think we would all agree with that.
I think that's about right, yeah.
Whereas this big boy is just the reverse.
Absolutely, and honestly, I don't really take this very far off-road just because it is literally, it's 560 pounds. And when you fall over on this bike, it takes you and all of your friends to pick it back up. So if you do tip over on this bike, you essentially have to, if you're loaded, you have to take everything off of it.
Yeah.
Take the panniers off, take everything off, and then lift it. It's very difficult to pick this bike up when you're on its side. This bike, some of the trails that I did go on, I fell over a handful of times just because there was big loose rocks, and you'd get to a point where you'd have to stop and then try to move forward, and you couldn't get the momentum, and you'd go a few feet and then fall over. With the altitude and breathing kind of hard, being out of shape because you've literally been standing for 20 minutes riding up this very steep incline, it took me a little while to pick the bike back up.
Yeah.
So even if this is 350 pounds, that's 560. Yeah. Unladen weight. So we're not talking about any cargo and your body on there.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about the bags if you would. You said these are made by Wolfman.
Wolfman in Longmont, Colorado.
Yeah.
These are great bags. They just basically have, the stays are very easy to just clip on, and they really mount to almost any pannier rack. They go on quite easily, and one of the nice things about them is they can hold so much, and they're very versatile. So you've got a couple clips, and it has a roll top to keep things dry, and basically you just have a big hole, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's really convenient. You just throw stuff in there.
Yeah. Now these would be like the video I did about the Rhino Walk bags. What capacity are these? Like 27 or 25 or 30?
Yeah, they're about 25. I'd have to look them up, but about 25.
Yeah.
But it's incredible the amount. I mean, if you really fill them, I mean, I've had them when I went out west this year. I had them where I could only fold the top like one time down, and I mean, you can put a lot in.
Yeah.
They just really are. They're very nice bags, very sturdy. And each time I fell over, I had my bags on there.
So on the back, it looks like you've added like a bag rack back there for soft bags. I see a bag stays along each side.
There's actually no rack here. I just attached this Wolfman to the attachment points on the side panniers.
Okay. And so this side pannier stay doesn't actually, yeah, okay. This is kind of like the ones we've seen on the Royal Enfield. It's just a stay that holds the bag away from the wheel and the chain and all that stuff. Yeah. And his exhaust is right here, and you got to be super careful when you're doing this, right?
Absolutely.
Or you get the black gooey stuff.
Yeah, so with the KTM, the fuel tank is unfortunately right under the back of this. So if you want to put fuel in this, you actually have to move everything, so which can be a hassle. So what I would do is every time I wanted to get fuel, I would have to lift this off, pop that open, and then there's my fuel cap.
Right. It's back here in the tail.
Yeah. So the problem was one time when I was in California, I didn't get this latched all the way, and it fell down onto the exhaust, and I lost my snap. So this is an inconvenient spot for a lot of bags, but that didn't deter me. You know, it's a problem you just have to kind of work around. So if you don't hear the click, kind of like putting the tank valve.
Kind of like scuba diving. If you don't hear the click for the weight pocket, you're going to have an issue.
Right.
I like your little badge back here, guns and coffee.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a famous badge, but this one's got two pistols in each hand.
That's right.
That sort of thing.
It's not green. It's black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up here, I mean, I love the mirrors, and of course these are Touratech.
They're Touratech, and you know there's a bunch of mirrors on the market, and I've had several sets of these. I like them because the head completely swivels, and anytime I've ever fallen over, the bike is tipped over, they don't break.
Yeah.
I like the look of them. There's other companies that make mirrors that fold out of the way. One is double take, and the double take mirror is, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. Now, they did come out with a new double take mirror, but I'm very happy with these. I like the way they just fold in, so when I ship the bike and when I'm off-road, that's where they sit. And so it works really, really well.
Now you've got a controller right here for...
So one is traction control, and the other one is your map, which basically controls the amount of power that goes to the rear wheel.
Okay.
So one is for like off-road and one is for on-road, essentially.
Yeah.
One delivers a little bit less power, and the other one is just full power.
Where is it retail-wise?
I want to say it was $11.99.
Okay. So this is about twice what the Royal Enfield is, but you can see twice as much power, probably twice or three times as much off-road ability. I'm looking here at this clutch lever. It's a Magura clutch lever. So the parts and pieces on the KTM as many of you already know out there, is far beyond what's on the Royal Enfield. But as I always say, you get what you pay for, per se.
Well, I knew I was going to be riding this bike hard off-road. KTMs have I don't know how they get this reputation. I've owned 3 of them. I've never had an issue with the bike, knock on wood, breaking down or having any issues other than a carbureted version. My first KTM was a carbureted version. And I had an issue with the carburetor because I left gas in it for too long, or I didn't put the right gas in it. But it's been an incredibly reliable bike. I bought this bike new in Orlando, and I didn't want to have to worry about having issues while I was 13,000 feet, which is where I was this summer.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention, if you folks are going to be going out doing some of that, especially if you're on your own, I mean, we all see people like Itchy Boots and of course Fuzzy's out there doing some stuff on his own. And I would really recommend that you have an inReach. Now, I'm going to put a link over to an inReach video that I did. It's over on another channel, but the inReach is such a special piece of equipment. And there's also one, EPIRB that we use when we're scuba diving that's become really popular since that couple was lost at sea for 39 hours. I'm sure many of you have heard stories about people on motorcycles or other vehicles breaking down out in the mountains somewhere and they're having to walk out. It sure would be nice. So, you know, if you're investing this kind of money for vehicles, invest in the Garmin inReach. It can mean your life. So don't go cheap on that piece of equipment. We're going to talk about the BMW here in just a minute. We're gonna make that a separate video. So stick with us. Eric and I'll be back shortly. Appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed, reach down and hit the subscribe button. We'd appreciate it, and ride safe out there.